Hi everyone. This is an unusual video for me because this is going to be a hobby video. The Danish Nationals is coming up. All the lists have come in. They've been sent to my email. I've been checking some of them, but I've also got some list checkers. So in between all of that, I'm trying to prep because I have promised that my club, the Basement Club, where we are like, we're 6 people or something like that. We're going to deliver 12 tables for that, and we're also going to deliver most of the tables going into Zealand Open later in this spring. So we decided that we needed a bit more terrain, and I mean we already have for quite a lot of tables, but I was like, this is one of the things that I actually enjoy doing, terrain making. I haven't really spoken about this on this channel, but you never know. So I started myself off, and I had been collecting material to do different projects for quite some time, and this turned for me into, like, it started really small, and then I started myself off, and then it turned bigger and bigger and bigger. So the first thing I did was get some barbecue skewers and a few coffee stirrers, and I made these. These are barbecue skewers that I cut to size. I put them down flat and then just glued a couple of 4 stand-ups for them, and then just glued them onto a coffee stirrer. And I made bunches and bunches of these because, well, why not? I could do this while listening to the juggers crap talk me on the internet. That was always brilliant. So I did that, which now I have like fences for at least a couple of tables. And that got me started, right? Then I looked through my piles of stuff I had, and I noticed that I had, weirdly, but I guess you guys would know that too, right? So I had some leftovers, and let me just get, because I'm in my hobby room, I've got everything right here. Right. Sarissa buildings, right? These buildings are from Sarissa. They were actually partly donated to me because I'm running a library project where these are going to be part of it, so people can come and borrow a full table of terrain. And I had been working on these, assembling them, and gluing some nice granulated, what's that called? Rooftop thingy on them so that they look Italian, because this is going to be Italy, Sicily or something at some point. Well, I had these, but that meant I had a lot of MDF cutoffs, right? The sheets that they actually come in. Now these had really interesting shapes, many of them. I'm just going to put these down. Many of these sheets had really interesting shapes. So what I did was I took a big box and broke them all up. The shapes got more interesting because now some of the weird shapes that were like, that church had round stuff. Oh, it didn't really work, but many of those shapes turned out to be interesting. And then a friend of mine, Michael, he also had a bunch of MDF sheets that were left over from a Stalingrad ruins project, so we combined them. And then I started gluing them together in random shapes, corners mostly. So that turned into this. This is all MDF cutoffs from other projects that turned into a nice little ruin. And as soon as I had done one, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do a bunch. So I did one more, and I did one more, and I did, and I continued doing. And I was just gluing these MDF bits together here, right? Then decorating them a little bit with coffee stirrers along the edges here, as if they were like real buildings. Because I think one of the things that sells a project like this, a terrain project, is some of the details you put in. Put in just enough so that it doesn't like overtake you, but that it sells the project. And that's what I was trying to do. So once I had glued, and this was corner pieces, I started gluing together like corner piece with corner piece, corner piece with corner piece, so that they could stand up. I got Michael to cut me some MDF bases for them. I like bases on ruins because I think that makes it easier playable, and it also gives me a chance to decorate them some. And I do love some decoration. For me, that also sells it. I like to decorate them more than other people at my club. Some of them really like them to be bare so that miniatures don't wobble. I like it to be a little bit more wobbly than they do. So what I did was, and I hope you can see this, I cut a load of foam core sheets into really small square pieces. And I could do this while watching TV with the missus. So I don't know if you can see this, but there are small square shapes here, right? Like bricks. Those I cut out hundreds, thousands. I had actually used some in my other projects for basing for miniatures. So I had a bunch of them in advance, but I cut out more. And then what I would do was I would give this a like the base here. I would give it a bunch of PVA, brush it out with a brush, and then randomly sprinkle some of these shapes down. Then also sprinkle a couple of stones because they break up the shapes nicely. On top of that, I would sprinkle a bunch more PVA and lay down some coffee stirrers that I had broken up. These could could be the rooftop that had collapsed, because this was obviously a building which had a roof at some point, right? So I dropped down some of those and a couple of corrugated sheets that I painted metal here, so that sort of corrugated metal. And then on top of all of that, I sprinkled sand, fine sand, because I didn't want any of the PVA to be left over. I wanted it all to be covered. And that was pretty much how I made these bases for the ruins. Then some of them I went a little overboard. They got a lot more. And that is because I do like my ruins to have a lot more. They need to sell it a bit more for me than for the average bold action gamer, I guess. Which is kind of weird, I know, because I am famous for being, I don't care, right? But well, they do need to sell it a bit for me. Then, once that was done, they of course got base coated. These got base coated with a light grey, and then I painted it up using very, very cheap craft paints. And I took some reddish and some brownish and mixed them up with a bunch of water and PVA glue. Painted everything down. If there were any places that hadn't got sand at this point, I sprinkled them again. And then, and that everywhere got that reddish shade. Because I wanted everywhere to sort of feel the same. I needed them to have, I didn't want them to be grey ruins, right? I wanted them to be sort of like they were made of brick or something, or painted red, ish, orange. I'm red-green colorblind, by the way, so I can't really see red that well, but this is a sort of reddish orange-y thing, I think. Anyways, and then I washed them. I washed them using a couple of different washes. So a brownish one that I sort of dripped down the sides. I hope you can see this. I put my pencil up at the top and let it run down in streaks, giving it a nice grimy look. And then with a black one as well, again letting it run down, and then randomly spotting it down into the base so that it would have different shades in the base, making sure to at least get all the corrugated metal and the rubble. At the end, I dry brushed everything with an off-white, a sandy color, just to make the edges, the highlights, stand out a bit more. And then at the end, I printed a bunch of small. Oh, and by the way, in this, I've also placed some little bits of miniatures I didn't really need. I cut up a bit. There's some tank stuff in here, like things I didn't need for tanks, old tank builds where I still had some on the sprue, cut them off and cut them up a bit. Put them down just to have a little bit of texture, something else going on, so that it sells the idea for me that it was an old factory that is now destroyed. And then I printed a bunch of signs. These are, I don't know if you can see, yeah, like that, and just glued them down using PVA and matches, basically. The stand up here is a match with, and I printed the sign and glued it on some cardboard. For me, these small patches of something else really sell these miniatures. That's what brings them to life. Those signs, as if there was something else going on at some point here. I really like that. So here you can again see this. This circle here is from a tank, by the way. And I just glued them on using some PVA. So I made a bunch of ruins here, and then I thought I need something else for the table, because if it's just ruins on that table, it won't look good. So I thought, well, maybe one of the buildings isn't ruined, so I made a building. And this is made from foam core and MDF sheets. And it's got corrugated so that it fits in with the theme of having corrugated roofs. Has a small chimney stick here, chimney stack. One thing I still need to do is these doors. I need to figure out how to make doors for that. But the bricks here are all cut out by hand, because you can do that with foam core. It's really easy if you know how. Take a scalpel and just run down the lines where you want them to be and expand them with a pencil. Dead easy. So I made a house. So a little bit different. And then I thought, well, a bunch of linear obstacles. So I took some pieces that were sort of linear. Again, I decorated them some, gave them a few like signs. Some of them, the PVA is still drying on this one. So I made a bunch of different linear obstacles here. And it's nice to have them a little bit ruined, so it has the same feel, right? These have gotten the same color treatment as the rest of my ruins by now. So I'm almost done. Maybe there's like one or two processes left to go on these linear obstacles, but I think mostly they're done. I might want to get a single splash of colors, maybe somewhere with a little bit of grass growing out or something like that at the end here. That might make it a little bit nicer. Right. So that was the linear obstacles. Then I felt like it needs a centerpiece, doesn't it? It needs a centerpiece and it needs rubble, because a ruined factory needs a lot of rubble. So for centerpiece, I took a kitchen paper roll and I made a chimney. I folded foam core around the kitchen paper roll. So this is actually like inside, it's a kitchen paper. I don't think you can see it. I filled it up, by the way, with some stones to weigh it down a bit. I gave it a base, MDF base. Gave it a little bit of interest here at the bottom. There's a trash bin and some rubble here and a ladder so people could climb up the chimney. I made sure to make one side completely flat so it can actually go against my ruins, so it can actually like stack up against the ruin as if it was part of that building if I want to. And I made sure to make the top broken so that somewhere along the line something happened to this chimney that broke it off at the top, which looks really cool, I think. I used a bunch of my cut-off bricks here at the top to just build it up a little bit, but the rest is all foam core that's just folded around and then lined up and made into individual bricks. So that was the centerpiece. This chimney is going to be the centerpiece of my table. Rubble. There were a few different ways I could do this, and having done the centerpiece with one side like so straight so it could go and flush against like the building or one of the ruins, right? It could go flush against it. I was like, I need more of that. I need ruins that can go flush against corners. So I started looking through my pile of MDF stuff, and I came up with these bits. And for them, I took some foil, some tin foil, and built them up using a bunch of PVA, glued them down and built them up. I don't know if you can see it, but this height here is made from tin foil. And it's fairly crunched up, so it's fairly safe for me to press it now and hold it. It doesn't really move that much more anymore. And it's got PVA on top of it, and then just a treatment of what I did with the rubble before. So there are different bits of tanks in here. There are bits of, again, the corrugated plastic stuff that I'm using for roofs. A bunch of my bricks. And all of that just piled on top using PVA, gluing down. And the cool thing is, I can take these and they'll fit perfectly at a corner. I love that. That was brilliant. Brilliant idea. I also made some straight pieces. With this one, there's a small chair in the pile somewhere, and a bunch more different like shapes of different wooden things. There's a barbecue skewer and a few matches and a bunch of different stuff here. I try to give it all more or less the same color because I didn't want it to be like taking away, but I wanted a little bit of difference. So the things like the wooden stuff have gotten a little more brown. The brick stuff has gotten a little more red. So that happened. Here's a straight piece. I put a little box on it as well. The remains of the wheel that I used before, I cut up and put down there as well. Again, making sure that one edge is straight so it can go flush against the side of one of my ruins. Brilliant. Final bit was I wanted some patches of rough ground that wasn't against the building. So I took some old CDs. And I made them into terrain. I can hardly recommend this. This was, I've seen this done on the internet, but the first time I saw it done in real life, it was a guy called Emil in the Danish bowl action scene who had made beautiful Finnish winter tables using bunches and bunches of old CDs, which he had just poured white on and maybe a little bit like a broken twig or something, and they became the basis of his forests in Finland. Brilliant, fucking brilliant idea. Because he could just overlap them and put them down however he wanted. And his forests were easy to make. They took a bunch of time to set up, but I liked the idea. So I was like, CD terrain, it's a thing. It does become very round. But I gave these CDs the same treatment I had given everything else. And this is how it turned out. So, a small ruined patch here with a signpost saying that there are mines. Again, rubble, rubble, rubble. Bunches of rubble, different colors, different little bits put in there. Really, really cool. Because, again, it means that I have a patch of rough ground. It doesn't really, like, break up anything. But you could even say, because there are mines, impossible terrain. Whatever. Again, really like these. Some of them I even gave a bit more because some of them I made some barbed wire. So here we have one again with the mine sign. And the barbed wire here is very, very easy to make. You take some wire, and then you take a thick pen and you just roll the wire around the pen. And at some point you take it off and then you have a slinky barbed wire. I gave the top of my barbed wire a little bit of silver paint just to make it stand out a little bit more, because my wire here, my metal wire, is fairly rusty and old, and that works well, but I needed it, at least the top, to be a little bit more blingy. So that was the first project that I've done and finished. At the same time, I looked through the club's old store and found a couple of donated ruins from like boxes of ruins from Warlord Games, and Michael had a bunch more, so we collected them all, assembled them, and started painting them up. And I wanted to show you those as well. So here we go. So these are the Warlord Games ruined French hamlets. These are not done yet. They haven't gotten the treatment with little signs and stuff, as you can possibly see. But maybe they won't, because these are way more ruined than everything else. Right. But these got a really easy treatment. They were really easy to make. I did them like this. First, they were base coated. Michael did that for me. Then I gave them a highlight, a zenithal highlight with a white. So they were base coated in grey. Then they got the zenithal highlight, and then I made washes. Again, using craft paints. I just poured some into a glass, a jam jar I had left over. Poured some in, water in, a lot of water, like 2-3 times as much water as paint. A drop of what is it called? You wash up. Dishwashing soap. Right. Drop of that, because it breaks the tension of the water. Stir it up, stir it up, stir it up, and now you have a wash. So I made washes in 4 different colors. I made a brown, I made a yellow, I made a green, and I made a black. And this is how these were painted. They were painted using a method I call the Leopard spots method. I'm not sure that that's the correct term, but I saw it somewhere. Was it the Mel the Terrain Tutor on YouTube or something? One of those guys who are really clever with terrain. And what you do is basically you have the mini. It's all done, and you take your brush and you just dump spots of it, of a color around, and let it run down. And you do that in 4 or 5 different colors. I did 3. So I did a brown, a yellow, and a green. Everywhere. And then at the end, you take a black, wash everything, and this needs to be fairly thin because it needs to flow fairly easily. Washed it all down, and then you get this. You get fairly natural looking stone. Fairly natural looking stone. And you can do it even better than what I've been doing here. This was fairly quick work because I was working on my ruined factory. That was my main focus, but this was just easily done, right? And you get very, very natural looking stone. It turns grey, even though it isn't really grey, which is amazing. So, and then at the end, just wanted to show, because I made 2 boxes of this. a whole box more here. Not sure where this is from, but this also got the same treatment. What is this? It's a ruin of some sort. Not Warlord Games. It's not the same as these French ruins. Right. The bases got the same treatment as before, but with the leopard spot. And then I just dry brush everything. Now, dry brushing. I use, again, craft paints. This, which is a sandy color. I often use this as dry brush. Don't go completely white. That'll look weird, but an off-white, a sandy color, works really well. And then get yourself one of these. I got this from a daughter. This is a makeup brush, which I'm destroying. But it works really well because it's soft, it's very pliable, and it has a lot of different hair on it. So it's really easy to put it down on the paint, dry it off on the, and then just dry it all over the model. So that's how I dry brush. Yeah, that's my project. That's what I've been doing these last couple of days while I've been avoiding real work and working on approving different lists for the Danish nationals. I've been building tables and terrain. Right, that's it, everyone. I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.